It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's something that's cul-de-sac better for the plan than the entry segment.
Yeah. Again, I'm if you.
Yes.
I-
We're going one.
It's terrible.
Yeah, we're getting rid of it.
Hey, George, how you doing? Good. Nice brisk evening out there tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only the digital folders.
Yeah, no.
Right. There's 6 people.
Early mid-six, nice.
all the technology. Yeah. There you go. Yes.
Like 96 feet.
All right. That's the only place.
Yeah.
Outside of the United States. 48 for radius. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to call to order City Council regular business meeting for Thursday, January 18th, 2024. It is 6:01 PM. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Cool,
Here.
Livingston.
Here.
Meineke.
Here.
Mayor Tom Phillips.
Well, we do have a quorum, so we will move on. Item number 2 is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you please rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me?
allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think it looks like he's in the wrong place.
Item number 3 is approval of the agenda. Would anybody like to move any of the regular consent agenda items or the consent agenda items to the regular agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Brown. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion carries. Item number 4, presentations. Retail Strategies is here and they are online. We'll go ahead and let them take it away.
Perfect. Is it possible I can share my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and get that going. I think it has someone sharing this. There we go. Perfect.
Lindsay, I'm not sure if you have, oh, no, he's got it.
There we go. Let me give me 1 second here. All right, perfect. Can everybody see this here? Let me just get up to the top here.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you guys for having us here this evening. And let me turn that off. I'm sorry. Thank you guys for having us here this evening. I'm accompanied here with my colleague, Jack Blankenship. He's here, so he's going to be jumping in and out as we speak. So I want to go and kick things off here for our presentation. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to thank you guys for having us on here. So as mentioned just a few seconds ago, I'm Cam South. I'm the portfolio director for retail strategy, specifically for the Midwest, and Jack Blankenship, he's our retail recruiter, or also what we call retail development. So I want to briefly go through this slide here. I know a few of you guys aren't familiar with who we are and kind of what we do. We are a full service advisory firm that works with municipalities and businesses across the country to help leverage their commercial real estate opportunities, as well as network and highlight the opportunities within your community. So, and that all really starts at the discovery phase. And discovery phase is starting off with the data, your baseline demographics. We're looking for your population growth. We're looking for household incomes, over 100 different variables that we start off with. And that leads into our market visit. After we collect your data, we visit the market, and that's kind of where we get our bread and butter from, is actually touring the market and seeing the sites that are available, getting in tune with the local investors and local brokers that are very familiar with the market, as well as visiting with any brokerage houses that tenant rep for certain brands. After we collect all that information, now that we have the data as well as our property catalog, we present something called a recruitment plan, and that's around the day 90 mark. The recruitment plan, you can think of it as the city's comprehensive plan. This is our vision, our goal. This is what we work towards getting to the market during our partnership, as well as other variables in there that change, such as the data. Usually after that 90 to 100 day mark, we jump straight into the active recruiting. This is where Jack is constantly on the phone. He's in retailers' emails and brokers' emails. He's developing and building relationships for the region and just utilizing all those contacts. We also bring and highlight you guys at a trade show such as ICSC and Retail Live. ICSC has a heavy focus on, not necessarily the deal making aspect, but building those trust-based relationships that our company lives and dies by. So we get to put sites in Norwalk in front of retailers. We're able to go over them. But we also want to get in front of retailers that are not in the market and get them to know the market. We want them to be as comfortable and want them to understand this market as much as we can. And it goes from there as a revolving circle. We usually run new data at the end of the year, going into the next year, as those metrics change. To our secret sauce is one thing I like to mention and like to say here, like I mentioned earlier, relationship building with national retail. We have multiple territories from our company, and every territory is completely different from each other. There's different brokers, there's different retail expansion in those regions. There's different brokers and different names that we have to mine up, and it's always changing as well. Comprehensive data. We sent over a ton of data that we were able to break down to actually give a high level view of the market. Relationship building, I'm kind of stressing this here, but again, relationship building with local brokers, if it's CBRE, if it's NAI, whoever it be, we want to make sure we have those contacts and form those relationship, and national representation on the national level, not only again for ICSC and Retail Live, but again, get you in front of the big players and the decision makers. One metric and one thing that we're constantly having to be up against is always the macroeconomics of our world, and really of everyone's world. We're all affected by the inflation. We're all affected by interest rates. And the same thing goes for developers and retailers when they try to secure loans. Can they afford the interest? Can they afford to have the capital expense to go into these projects? And it trickles down not just from the big guys up top, but even to the franchisees. They actually have to put capital up front to move into new markets. So just as today we heard on my way home of the changeover now of the having to be able to secure a budget for our funding bill. Partnership recap. I want to go over year one. Year one, we discovered a bunch of metrics throughout your data that we collected. Year one, we also got to that market. We wanted to make sure that we had a good hold on the market and understand it. Example like projects like the Norwalk Central project, knowing the dynamics behind it, making sure we have those connections, knowing who is who, finding the sites that are at interest, not only for us, but what we would put in front of a retailer. We also have focus areas that we to go after for the market. Those areas are food and beverage, health and personal care, clothing, general merchandise, and grocery. Real estate focus has been the center. A lot of our work has been on the Norwalk Central development, as well as some of those strategic pad sites there off the main drag. And not only just those categories, we want to be broad and have an open net to cast and to make sure that we can cover our bases, not just only in those categories, but to get interest from this list of different brands and different focus areas. Jack, I'm gonna pass this over to my colleague here.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me. I want to reiterate what Cam said. It's really a pleasure to be in front of you guys. I'm just kind of going to go over sort of the high level stuff we've been doing lately, and all this is redacted to kind of just save confidentiality. But at the moment, we're really kind of heavy handed with the national pizza chain that they've been looking at Norwalk for a while. The franchisee's been reviewing these options for quite some time. We've also been really lucky to work with the great team at CBRE, kind of with them trying to find a perfect spot for them. A few more promising leads is a sandwich concept, a health-focused beverage company, which is really a fancy way to say a smoothie kind of concept, a well-known burger place. And again, it really kind of comes back to having franchisees, which as Norwalk grows and kind of people get more eyes on it, the more these franchisees will be flocked towards that. That's always the problem we deal with in the first year, which is also why we kind of continue to do little check-ins. If they say no, not at the moment, we make sure we know why and always come back to them. Also, two fast casual franchises, a popular fast food chicken chain that everybody knows about, kind of looking into Norwalk. Some more challenges we're going into though right now is just kind of trying to get the overall quality of life going better. So let's say like your dentist, your cell phone providers, we're kind of trying to ease in with that. And we want to make as much variety as possible, make it as kind of the best quality of life along with tax revenue that we can. So this landscape is going to keep changing, but hopefully we'll be able to be on the front foot of it, and we're going to be able to change with it and kind of be able to be proactive and not reactive towards it. And a big thing about that is just maintaining communication with retailers that show interest. We're going to continue to promote Norwalk, and we're going to keep going back to those brands that may have said no previously. We're just going to kind of just keep filling in, keep chiming in, really until they tell me to stop. I mean, that's kind of my job, thankfully. You can go to the next one, Cam. So this timeline we like to show because it really is important to sort of show the whole full picture. I know everybody wants success overnight, but the truth is most of this starts on Wall Street or with investors, with the big heavy pocket people. They hire a real estate director, then they identify the markets, they'll identify sites, they'll get it to a real estate developer, tenant rep to go from there. And if all that gets done within hopefully the first year or so, it'll go to pro forma and letter of intent to make sure all the numbers really add up. So you're in the green essentially. They take it back to real estate committee to make sure everything else is fine, finally into a lease. And I said that in about 20 seconds. The process is usually 2 to 3 years, unfortunately. And anybody that's been in real estate long enough will tell you that. And if it was a short game, I probably wouldn't be in it, but that's really what makes it so fun and makes it kind of just worth all this grind is to really, and that's also why we ask for 3-year contracts, because oftentimes that's just sort of what it takes to get these deals to the forefront. All right, next one, Cam. So our big picture with year 2, and honestly, I think we're ahead of schedule with Norwalk, is to sort of just keep highlighting Norwalk's unique position with national retailers, brokers, and developers. Y'all are a very special community in the sense y'all have a lot of new builds, a lot of growth going on in the market. There's a good, solid medium income. Nobody's really worried about if y'all are going to be able to afford X or Y. It's really just finding the right spot, finding the right people for it. And lastly, to focus on the restaurants that supplement Norwalk Central development. As y'all know, that's going to be the shining emerald to the rest of Norwalk. As long as Norwalk Central grows, I think the town will grow around it. And we've been kind of making that a precedent for us. So we're excited, and we thank you for the time.
All right, with that, I want to open it up for questions. Definitely want to hear from you guys.
So you folks do a national search off the data that you get from Norwalk here then?
Yes, we do. Our main contacts and our bread and butter is with the national retail. That's what we live and breathe by. We do work with local and regional tenants and retailers, but our background, our connections are on the national level.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for having us.
All right. All right. Next item on the agenda is welcome. We got some public comment. Because of the weather, there's not too many people here. We got a few online. We'll go ahead and open up online for anybody who wants to address council for non-agenda items. We'll give you a 3-minute time limit. We can't take action on them tonight because they're not on the agenda. Also, if you'd like to comment on any item in the consent agenda, now would be the time. have no takers tonight. Huh?
Yes.
What's that?
I was, nothing, sorry.
Okay.
I was talking to George. This is annoying.
All right. What's that?
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, you're good. Item number 6, consent agenda. Tonight we have expenditures, tax abatements. January 4th, 2020 minutes of the regular city council meeting. We have a resolution to approve change order number 6, final pay estimate number 15, and certificate of completion for the Sunset Drive, Iowa Highway 28 and North Avenue intersection improvements project. We have a resolution approving supplemental agreement number 3 for additional construction engineering services for Sunset Drive, Iowa Highway 28 and North Avenue intersection improvements project. A resolution requesting approval of fiber optic cable installation to the City State Bank Norwalk Fieldhouse. We have a resolution approving an agreement for engineering services for hydraulic model and CIP plan updates. A resolution to approve pay estimate number 1 to Iowa Signal for Iowa Highway 28 traffic signalization improvement project. We have resolutions approving pay estimates for the Norwalk Fieldhouse. There's a few of those there. We have a resolution approving cancellation and termination of the irrevocable letter of credit with Sportsplex USA LC and Fortress Bank. We have correspondence. We have community development 2023 annual report, and that's also on paper in front of you. And we have monthly reports. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Livingston, seconded by Brown. Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Item number 7, old and new business for consideration, discussion, and possible action. Item A is resolution approving First Amendment to development agreement with Sportsplex USA LC and Heartland Sports Properties LLC. So the lender, Sportsplex and Heartland, is using for their project at Norwalk Central is asking for some clarification language in the development agreement. So Holly?
Basically, with every development agreement, we have some pretty flexible language when it comes to the completion date of their facility, because we know with construction, there's going to be delays. So our bond counsel was comfortable with the language that we have in the development agreement, that it would give them enough flex that if something happens and it delays the project, that we are okay with it on the city side based on our language. But the lender wanted to have a little bit more clarification, really in terms of just the dates that are listed in there. So even though we would allow them to pass their date, they wanted to move the date just to be absolutely certain everybody's on the same page. So not a big deal. So we had that moved. De Novo, who's building the Sportsplex building, said that they would be completed by June 1. And so they asked for a July 1 extension. I said, let's just go ahead and do September just to be safe, just in case anything else comes up, but we don't have to amend it again, more for comfort for the lender. So that's what that piece of it is about. And the second piece was, I don't know that any of us really contemplated this part of the language when we were negotiating all of these terms and these different components with the development agreement. But when we generally give out a grant, we do it at the time of certificate of occupancy. So that's when the building is ready to go, it's open for business. But what the Sportsplex developers were responsible for in the development agreement was completing the construction of the shell building, because they're having multiple tenants coming in after the completion of that shell structure. And they have a minimum assessment agreement tied to the completion of that shell building, which is what we tied their grant amount to and their TIF rebates to. So basically they're having to start that minimum assessment amount. They're paying taxes on that building, this $8 million minimum assessment. But the way that the language read in there, they may not get their grant until every single one of those tenants is fully built out inside that building. So that would push this really extended delay, even though they're doing their part on the payment side and their completion. So long story short, I'm sorry, I couldn't get it more clear in this, in the language in this agenda statement. I was trying to, but basically we just want to make sure that we understand what completion means on the facility side so that their grant is not delayed beyond that. So they will complete their shell structure. Their minimum assessment's already in action. It started January 1 of 2024. So they're already going to be paying taxes on that total dollar amount. So there's no risk in terms of that on the assessment side. So with that, I'm not sure if that makes a lot of sense, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Is this the only development agreement we have with this group?
Yes.
And is this the building that's going up right? It's
Yeah,
gone vertical, correct?
Right
By
next
the
door.
hotel?
yeah.
Okay.
No, right next door to the city field house, just to the east. The building you're thinking of, that's the Norwalk Central Retail Center.
Okay.
Diligence building that one.
So this one isn't really gone vertical too much yet?
Their steel is there and they're starting.
Yeah, all the steel is laying there. They're ready to stand it up.
Okay, gotcha.
Well, Holly had explained to me earlier, I asked a series of questions today and the staff responded very effectively, very quickly. And one of my concerns with this initially was, does this change the amount of risk or exposure the city had? And Holly explained to me that with the minimum assessment agreement, it is what it is anyway. That's, you know, not having an effect on it. So, I mean, I don't have any problem with it. It'd be kind of tough on them to have to make every stall filled before, you know, things started, I think. I'm hoping they'll all be filled, but you don't know if they will. So I'm probably okay with it.
Okay.
Getting quicker, takes me a while.
All right, so motion by Meineke, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes,
Livingston.
Yes.
congratulations, George. You just got your ocean gold. That's pretty.
All right, that motion carries. The next item is for the library, and Jean is on her way home. Since she lives south of here, and so we're gonna hold off on that one for a little while. We're gonna go the next four and then we'll get to that one. Item 7C is preliminary resolution pursuant to section 384.42 of the Iowa Code regarding the Golden Valley Drive Improvements Project. So we're gonna have several items for the Golden Valley Improvement Project. The preliminary resolution outlines the specifics of the project, including what's gonna be completed with the project. Part of this project is gonna be paid for using assessments to the homeowners for parts of the project, such as the curb and gutter, the approach for the driveway and sidewalk. So Wade.
Thank you, Mayor. Little background for the new council members. It was probably maybe 10 years ago, Norwalk commissioned a study of Lakewood, or I think it was beyond the Lakewood area, but identified a lot of streets that needed improvement, particularly in the Lakewood area. The city made great strides out there in the Lakewood area, improving the road network through big projects and patching projects. Golden Valley, we've been trying to do maintenance on that to delay reconstructions to the point now where maintenance isn't feasible. We need to reconstruct it. Golden Valley Drive between Lakewood Drive and Wakanda. It's fairly heavily used. I think people cut through to go from Lakewood Drive up to the traffic signals on Wakanda. So it's probably a little higher traffic than some of the other roads. It makes it more important that we focus on rebuilding it. The engineers have a design put together. They're still working on some temporary easements. Some new offer letters going out this week to the residents. They don't anticipate any trouble getting those. They're wrapping that up. Being consistent with past projects, we are, like the mayor said, assessing portions of the project. We are also redoing the water main there. We haven't done that on other projects. The water main is a material that it's vulnerable. We want to replace it while we're have the street tore up. I can't tell you too much about the assessments. Probably our city attorney or clerk, and if you have specific questions on the assessments, they can handle that. On past projects, we recovered 18% of the total project cost we assess and recover over 10 years.
So the agreement or whatever actually indicates that there will be assessments to benefited properties, because the agenda statement says there may be. So I was just confused.
Yeah, there shall be, and these series of resolutions that you're doing is not only, they're really steps straight out of the Iowa code to set up the ability to do those assessments. So, you know, all these next resolutions address that. And there's an estimated amount that's pretty certain on what's going to be assessed against the property owners, and you're just going through these steps.
And those are consistent with policy that the city's had in the past.
Yes, they're consistent with we did it on Lakewood Drive, and we've done it on Wakanda, and there's, I can't remember, behind Dollar General, there's this. Yeah, it's consistent with all those, and really, the city paying for the general, you know, basically curb to curb, street. But the individual things like hookups to, for some pumps, sidewalks, which are traditionally private property expenses, those are the ones that are getting assessed back to the property owners.
That previous councilors. Sounds like you replace streets, not assess. Which is true what you do. You have to, except for the sidewalks and that.
Yes, and that's been done on the previous ones too, so this is definitely consistent with all the other replacement projects that we've had. I guess one exception could be on it, that by looking at it, staff and engineers have decided it's not practical to put sidewalks on both sides of the street. So what we've done is we're putting it on one side of the street, but we are spreading the assessments for those sidewalks on one side of the street to all the properties within the district, just for fairness purposes. And there's going to be some exceptions also on the sump pumps, whereas before all houses had sump pumps hooked up there, but some of these houses back up to the finger pond, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
At Lakewood. And so it's not practical to pump it to the east, it pumps to the west in the finger pond.
Sure.
But other than that, it's exactly consistent with what we've done in the past.
Okay, other question? Thank you. Anybody want a second?
I'll second that.
All
The
right.
bad stretch of road.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Any further discussion?
I have a question. What, if you don't do the water, about how much, I'm just wondering, I'm shocked. All of the paperwork, the engineering on this is simply amazing. When was it talked about last? If we're only getting 13% on this for a return, and that's what I heard, like for I think, was it Lakewood Drive? Anyway, 13% or so.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of reimbursement for the amount of, how much work are we making up in order to do all these assessments? Busy work is what I'm looking at, like, you know, the 90 pages of stuff. It's not as much of a reimbursement as what I was kind of guessing we would get.
Yeah, the total reimbursement based off the preliminary assessment schedule is right around 165,000 or 17% of the project. So it's a little
And
higher.
that's larger on this one because of the water.
Yeah, there's $43,600 is water assessments.
Yeah. Okay, I just you know, I think this one it's already done, and I imagine it's already baked in for the ridge and that, but I think we should go back. It would be my suggestion that we should rethink these assessments for further neighborhoods and roadways, or when this is needed. If it sounds like this is something that could be done simpler, easier, and faster without the assessments, and I'm not sure the payoff is worth it. That's my whole point.
Yeah, I think we could certainly compare, you know, the cost of what it costs to get it done versus the administrative expense to it. I think a lot of the expense has been brought internally, because now as a staff attorney, I'm doing that, and Lindsay's gonna spend a lot of time on that, but we aren't hiring external attorneys to go through that process. Engineering, whether we do assessment or not, we're still gonna need engineering. Because
but I'm talking about, I mean, your time is obviously worth a lot. Just the fact that it's born in-house doesn't mean it's not a cost that we could avoid.
But I think we can certainly try, basically look at how much money we're making off of the assessments and kind of do an expense payoff type, look at it.
And right, and then you gotta put that against the neighborhoods that are really ticked off at this assessment or that are gonna litigate or whatever. Who knows? And see if it's actually worth it.
Yeah,
That's my point.
I guess, the one thing, just a caution, I think it's pretty important that we treat everybody the same. So, we can take a look at it, but
yeah, if we,
Yeah, we've been down this road for years already.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, like I said, this one and the next one in the Ridge, I think that's already baked in. But I'm just, we make decisions all the time as we get smarter and smarter, whether it's still the right thing to do or are things a little different now? I have no idea. And I wasn't around when you were doing the preliminaries with all of the liquid stuff. All of that was kind of done for years. So I'm just curious. It seems like a lot of busy work for not a lot of payoff.
And I'm not saying that's not a fair question, but were we to change our policy now, I would be concerned that that would open us up to a lawsuit from all the other people who have been assessed. And and the response from everybody who's already being assessed, and when do I get reimbursed because you're not assessing anybody else for the same work that you did at all the other places. I mean, I just,
Okay.
I hear what you're saying, Brian, but yeah.
well, let's take a look and see if it, if it makes sense or not. We can look at it.
So per household, what would the assessment be?
It depends on the frontage. It depends on how much your lot line is and how much of.
There's
Like
a
on
worksheet
our
in there
lot-
that shows.
Texture curve.
yeah, there's a worksheet here. Let's see.
Yeah, the largest one is $12,114. That's the largest. The smallest one is $5,814.
And yeah, you're right, Jackie, maybe going forward, if that's the case, but at the same time, I feel silly saying, well, yeah, we weren't very bright a while ago, so we're just going to keep hammering people
Well,
to
yeah,
make it fair.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. There was a huge debate about doing this when it started. And I feel like it was kind of exhaustively discussed. And
Okay.
not that we don't get new information and times don't change, but
It'd be good to get a cost benefit analysis on it. To see if we want to continue moving forward with that.
That's all I'm wondering about.
Just take a look. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway, sorry about that. You were in the middle of voting.
No, you're good. Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7D is resolution fixing value of lots for the Golden Valley Drive Improvements project. So as indicated, homeowners are going to be assessed for specific costs for the project. Resolution spells out values for the homes and what their maximum amount assessed will be. Wayne, you got anything more or Jim?
Nope, just Iowa code says the council has to find what the values are, approximate values are of the properties after the improvement. These numbers are just based upon Warren County assessor numbers.
Any discussion from council?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Cool, seconded by Brown. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston,
Yes.
Meineke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Item 7E is a resolution approving and adopting preliminary plans and specifications, estimate of cost and plat and schedule for the Golden Valley Drive Improvements project. So this one approves the preliminary plan specs for the projects and the schedule. Wayne?
Yeah, bid letting will be February 20th and they'll be brought to council March 7th. If all goes well, we'll be beginning construction in spring of this year and completion of this year.
Any questions or discussion from council? I get a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Livingston, seconded by Cool. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call a roll?
Councilmember Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, motion carries. Item 7F is a proposed resolution of necessity and setting a date for hearing regarding the assessments for the Golden Valley Drive Improvements Project. So this resolution indicates the council has determined that this project is necessary to the best interests of the city. Wayne or Jim, anything else?
I would just say that on this one, what you're approving is the form of the resolution necessity, really. And it directs the staff and everything to publish notice. All the property owners affected we will publish notice in the paper for 2 times for notice. And plus there's a direct mailing to each of the property owners that are gonna get an assessment. And in that notice, it sets a public hearing for the future date, at which point in time we'll have a public hearing. And the council would ultimately vote after that public hearing on the resolution necessity and also on awarding the contract. So these resolutions, like we said earlier, are kind of starting that ball rolling down the hill. Your ultimate decision on whether the council wants to do this and letting the contract and entering into the contract to build, that'll be at that future meeting. So like I say, there's a commitment at right now at this point in time, other than we'll starting the ball down the hill. And then the citizens will have a chance to come in and give public input at the public hearing.
Cool. Any questions, comments from council? Do you want to make a motion?
Motion.
All right, motion by Livingston, seconded by Minneke. Lindsay, would you call roll?
Councilmember Minneke,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yeah.
Livingston.
Yes.
All right, motion carried. Gene's not on yet. We're gonna go ahead and do item 8, future agenda items. Purpose for this is for council to give direction to staff by way of motion to have items placed on future agendas, not for discussion of the merits of the subject matter, but just to get them going. Anybody have anything? Okay, hearing none, we're gonna go ahead and go to council inquiries and staff updates. Thank you for putting this on. This year, I'd like to bring special attention to the Greater Des Moines Partnership trip to Washington, DC. This event is going to happen on May the 8th through May the 10th. So attendees travel from across the metro, travel together to Washington, DC, where we have structured meetings set up. A lot of them are in person with our representatives and senators or with their staff. It's a great opportunity to get the one-on-one contact with staff and with the representatives. With our long-range master planning and Southwest Corridor, we'll have some key projects to discuss with them. Please contact Holly about registering for that trip. I believe that both Luke and Holly are going to attend, as well as our local chamber president and the chamber director. So you can sign me up.
When do you need to know that date? Or what date do you need to know it by?
Is it February?
Opens the 3rd, I think.
February?
Mhm. And there's only so many seats as far as I understand, so.
If you can let us know by the
Okay.
1st of February, that'd probably be best.
Okay. Thanks.
May the 8th through the 10th. So you leave the morning of the 8th, which is probably a Wednesday, would be my guess.
It is Wednesday.
Yeah, you're fly out, they charter a plane. You'll fly out to DC, get on some buses, get down to the hotel, drop your stuff, and you are on the move. Wednesday night, there's usually a dinner, I think. Thursday, you're on the move all day long. There's usually a luncheon where somebody will come in and a representative or senator will come in, address the crowd. And it's usually not somebody from Iowa at that point in time. The Iowa folks are sitting with you. Friday, I can't remember if you have breakfast with the breakfast stuff at the Senate building.
Yeah,
I think is on Friday, and then they take you on the bus and get you out of there on the plane. So you're home Friday afternoon.
So how big a delegation was the plan to send? I didn't know.
From Norwalk or overall?
From Norwalk.
You want to go?
Yeah, I don't think we had a set number of people. I think on the budget side, maybe we'll just.
Yeah, that's what,
kind of where she-
listen, if there's interest in going, let us know, and then we'll reconcile that with the budget, and if we need to adjust, we will.
Okay. Thank you.
There's good opportunity as well in the evenings to network with some of the local officials from other cities, and it's
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff done in some lobbies.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, and like Luke said, now that we have really specific projects that we can make a difference.
Yeah.
There can be a difference made by talking to our legislators with these bigger projects.
And we are already working on what that talking list would be.
cool.
3 or 4 items that we'll be able to give out, hand to legislators that we'll be able to give to all you, so that during those meetings, we can all promote those same concepts. Keep in mind, it's not something staff comes up the list. We'll bring you some items. We'll talk through. We'll make sure that council's on board with whatever those items are.
We contact Holly.
Go ahead.
We contact Holly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Warren County Economic Development usually sends a person. Board of Supervisors usually sends a person as well. So. All right. Dean's on. All right. So we're going to go to item 7B, which is a resolution approving the fiscal year 24 budget amendment for library staffing. So the library has taken action to move the teen librarian from part-time to full-time and add 2 paid interns for the summer. Library board has secured funding for the change for fiscal year 24 and approved the staffing change. While they have secured funding, this action still requires city council action, as the change will likely put the library over their approved fiscal year 24 budget. So Gene is here to ask for a budget amendment for the library's fiscal year 24 budget. Gene.
Hi there. Thank you for the consideration of this amendment. It's kind of an unusual situation, but we do want to help make sure that we have a balanced budget. And so we have secured funding from outside sources to fund our 2 interns this summer, as the mayor mentioned. And the Board of Trustees also approved use of some of the interest money from the Patricia Boss Lawrence estate to kind of do a Band-Aid to get the teen librarian with us full-time from December until July 1. We had anticipated that funding would roll into the regular budget in July if all was going well and things were looking good. So we have taken that action, and as I said, in order to make sure that the budget gets evened out, we would request the amendment go through.
Questions for Gene?
I think it sounds like a lot of the departments need additional, or they're making requests for additional help. I'm not seeing this as a super essential, and I think that this year that is kind of prerequisite for people. And last year, I know during the CIP, everyone was asking, or not everyone asked for help, but we did grant the library extra help last year. And I just do not see this with all of these changes in our finances and the state requirements, that this is a good use of funds right now at all.
I guess my question was gonna be maybe to Luke and formulation of the budget as you're looking at it now. Had this been contemplated already in that budget, or is this a new variable for you?
In the current fiscal year 24 budget,
Preparation for the next budget. For fiscal year 25.
for fiscal year 25, the numbers so far that Jean Kelly, the numbers she's included in that planning budget document, not approved, it still has to come to you. It does include the 25,000, which is the difference for that employee to go from part-time to full-time. Jean Kelly, you'd have to let me know, did you add anything for the interns?
I did not, but I believe those are going to be funded from outside sources. I did put them in place as far as being able to be paid out of that line item, but there's a revenue stream for those interns, I believe.
Yeah.
The general fund, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to reiterate what Jean was saying, is that the intent for the interns is to have those paid for from outside funds through the Library Foundation and other sources. And while we would love to have them in the general fund, it is not a priority request this year, as opposed to transitioning the teen librarian from part-time to full-time, because we are still playing catch up with a lot of our staffing, and we feel like we have the right person at the right time. And we feel strongly that we need to retain that person so that we can continue to provide the services that our community has been asking for.
So that position, as I understand it, would start now, and that would be funded through the library board. And then we would continue funding in the fiscal year 25 budget, correct?
I believe that is correct.
We just have to kick in this money now to make it through this one.
No,
We're not kicking any money in.
No, you're not correct.
We're
The
not
money
kicking-
would,
Go ahead,
right,
Jean.
at this time, it would be through the estate funds to make up the difference between our part-time budget that we currently have to get us to the July 1st date.
This is just to reconcile the points.
Yes.
But it's also a commitment to continue it.
Yeah,
Going
that's true.
forward, yeah.
It's adding staff.
Right. And, you know,
We're gonna have a lot of requests about these.
I don't doubt that it's needed, you know, and it appears that it's a fantastic program from the stats she presented. The only concern I have with anything where we add staff is 3 years down the road, because we know what the state's given us, and unless that changes, it could get really, really snug.
And we have taken all of that into consideration. We just feel like, especially since we're talking about getting a new library building in 6 to 8 years, we kind of have to start building up our staff bit by bit rather than hiring a whole bunch at one time before that happens. So we thought this might be a good way to kind of bridge into that need.
Something that is important for council to also keep in mind is that when the library budget comes to you, while it does itemize out their planned expenditures, ultimately what council is approving is the total budget, the total dollar amount. If, for example, council collectively said, hey, we don't like the idea of that staffing person, you could request to cut their budget by the 25,000. That doesn't mean that that staffing wouldn't still be fulfilled by the library. It means they could choose to adjust elsewhere in their budget to make that work. So Brian, I just want to make sure that's understood so it doesn't create frustration. If council says, no, we don't want that staff person, ultimately how they staff is a choice of the library board.
Oh, absolutely. I just know it's going to be tight this year. Everyone's going to want additional staff, because last year everyone was real team players and you know, didn't add.
Other comments?
Well, I'm connected to the library, right? That's the liaison. And had a really good conversation with Gene about this particular staff person and the impact that the staff person was making. And the number of kids that were coming to these programs that she was offering and the types of kids that were coming as well. For me, that was personally moving. So, how that fits out with budget and things like that. You guys know I'm new at this, but I had a lot of appreciation for the case that Gene was making for this, and it's just interesting. So often in situations like this, it's a person that ends up being the key to greater impact or greater usage or things like that. I'd liken it to, a local church hires a youth pastor, and now kids from, 5 different churches are going to that youth group, and most of the parents could care less whether it's their church or not. And this particular staff person is getting kids involved in things and helping them do stuff that, doesn't affect my daughter. She's got all of our sports, things like that. But that meant a lot to me.
And I would argue it doesn't directly affect your daughter, but I think it affects your daughter a lot, right? It affects the quality of life and behavior of the kids, which affects
everyone.
And at a time in our life when kids are struggling so much, giving them programming, I think is important. So I kind of liken this, at least in this snapshot, to, like the COPS grant or, whatever grant or funding they get at the fire department or whatever, right? The library board is paying a portion of it. We're paying the other portion of it. And to me, it seems like, I know things are going to be really tight, but this is a bargain, and they're offering, I think, a compromised solution to get this done. What I want to know though is what is the cost in the 25 budget? Because the 35,699 is for 5 months. So what is the cost for the city to continue this in the fiscal year 25 budget?
That is a good question, and I don't have all of my stuff in front of me because I'm in my car, which is not the best place to be.
Jean,
yes.
Can I project? What do you propose to pay this person full time?
Because the council had approved the wages at the adjusted level so that Norwalk, city of Norwalk could be competitive, it would be $62,000 wages.
Okay, so the difference between her part-time rate, which was 15, 18 to the 60. So it's probably going to be an additional 30,000 plus benefits of 25,000. I'm ballparking that.
Right.
Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
Roughly,
And also, go ahead.
I was just going to say, roughly adding those together, 55,000 total impact
For next year.
for fiscal year 25.
But the ask for tonight is to approve the 35,699, right? And then when it comes time for us to approve the budget, that's when we would decide whether or not we're approving the extra 55, correct?
Only
Yes.
if you lay a person off.
I understand.
But we're not really approving the 35,699.
Well, we are, we have to approve an amendment to the budget,
Right.
even though the board is paying. That's today's
Okay.
ask, to approve that amendment to the budget.
I see what you're saying. But it is not an additional spend
Right.
for the city of Norwalk.
It's basically to endorse what the board has done. That's basically what today's ask is.
And I
Correct.
just want to add that Gene Strable has been talking to me about this for quite a while. And Gene, if you recall, the first discussion wasn't about this being funded through the foundation. It was about going to council to ask for it.
Correct.
And council may realize that request never even came forward. I think that Gene clearly saw the writing on the wall that that was likely not something that was a good idea to ask council for. It was very impressive that the foundation was willing to step up and put those dollars forward. I think that says a lot. I mean, it was interesting, Jason, to hear your take. From my vantage point, the fact that those dollars were drawn from somewhere else, comparing that to a COPS grant or a SAFER grant, all of that has a major impact on our decision for staffing.
And that is a really good point. And I appreciate what Jackie and Jason said in this this discussion, because it really is about providing another safe space in our community for these youth to gather. There's not a lot of places, there's a lot of places that they can go to get in trouble. And this is a positive place where they're making friends and socializing and having quality activities. And the council members who were present a few months ago when we had two of the teens who come for the programs weekly, they came to the council and they spoke very highly in favor of the activities at the library. So we feel like it's something that the youth are wanting more. And if that's one of the reasons why the library board was so willing to put ourselves out there and to try to meet the city halfway with the budget, because we are very aware of the limitations of the budget and the lack of ability to use our growth funds. And so we're trying to figure out how we can make it work for everyone so that we can still continue to provide the services with the staffing that we need.
I guess I'd be willing to move it now, but we may have critical eye as we look at the upcoming budget.
I'll second it.
Okay. So I got a motion by Cool, seconded by Livingston. Any further discussion? Lindsay, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Baker,
No.
Brown,
Yes.
Cool,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Minneke.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Back to council inquiries and staff updates. Luke?
Do have a few items. First, I think I mentioned last time about some of the annual reports that we have been seeing that come from the different departments. A lot of quality information, very well done. Luke Paris dropped off their annual report today, which I believe was that in the packet.
Some packet on the desk.
Yeah.
Steal my thunder for my update. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I just wanted to pass on a compliment. Well done, good information. Thank you. Also, it looks like we're gonna have a pretty good turnout of city representation at the annual chamber award banquet. So thank you for signing up for that. And the last thing, legislative discussion. So as you recall, sometime every year in the past, we come up with some legislative priorities, and then those are used as we have some of the meetings with our state legislators. Last year was a strange year. This year, it seems to be even more strange. It really feels like that continued attack on local government is real. What we're noticing, I've gotten together with a few different entities. I'm on the legislative committee for the League of Cities. I've been meeting with some of the western suburbs, some of our shared partners, Westcom. We've gotten together and we've talked about legislative priorities. And what I'm noticing from several other entities is they're taking more of a quiet, kind of a stand down, be present and available to provide a resource to legislators, but showing up with priorities seems to do more to stoke the fire than to help. So at our next admin policy work group meeting, I anticipate we're going to have some discussion about legislative policies. We've talked about a little bit in the past, but just wanting to make sure that that's the right path for us. So I bring that up just for council to be thinking about that. If you have strong feelings one way or the other, if you want to talk about a council meeting, great. If you've got some thoughts you'd like to share with me, I'm all ears. But at this point, kind of just taking a more quiet quiet approach. That's all I have.
All right, Jack.
Thank you to, really all the city staff. It's been a tough weather-wise couple of weeks. And I think the city's been doing, really well. So thank you. Is the snow ordinance in effect
It is.
tonight? Has it been out of effect since we got the snow last week?
It should have been, yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. I looked at like 4 o'clock on the city website and I didn't see that the snow ordinance was in effect tonight.
Went in effect at 6.
It went in, did it get posted that it went, okay,
The notice went out at 2:05 on my phone.
so that's, okay, all right, good, I just wanted to check. My husband wanted to know. It is now.
Yep.
All right, actually, I was on Facebook page, that's why I didn't see it, that's why I didn't see it. All right, anyway, thank you.
All right, Jason.
And what exactly is this time for here? Anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, a couple of interesting conversations about the golf cart stuff at, yeah, so I just thought I'd let people know, I had a couple of those and I went to an MLK Day celebration and a couple of my friends were there that they live out there. And so prior to the celebration, we had a good conversation. These are very reasonable people. But hopefully we can maybe figure out something slightly different. So again, I gave them all the reasons as to why this was a good decision on our part, and they both received that and should. So there's that. Also agree with you, Jackie. Now that I'm on this sort of thing, I took the time to thank Wayne and his team for the good work that they do. I've always been grateful for the snow removal. Obviously, I got to do a little work at the end of my driveway, but I'm out there doing the end of my driveway, and every single time I'm thinking, this is so great. This is all I have to do. Because I can drive out. So anyway, yeah, appreciate it. It's just brutal. Yeah.
So what you're saying is the city's doing your driveway?
I'm also thankful for really good neighbors.
Oh,
One's got a big John Deere lighter, way more than what he needs, with a 4-foot, snow blower attachment. And, he loves it. So like if I told him, yeah, I'm doing it, he'd be like, come on, I got this. I can do this for you in like 3 minutes.
Yeah. He's got to justify that to his dad.
Yeah. I think at this point, he could assess all of his neighbors.
Yeah.
Be like, we're pitched in for John Deere, buddy.
All right. Anything else? No. Lindsay.
Just one thing, Luke Paris and I met in person yesterday with the census people. Unfortunately, we've only received one application so far for anyone interested in helping us conduct our census. So we are going to work super hard and really push that word out to people. Luke's already sent emails today, I know, to like the ministerial associations and things like that. So thank you, Luke, for that. But just know that you're going to hear the word census a lot in the next 6 months. And we want you to say the word census a lot in the next 6 months to anyone you talk to, because we need applicants. So just anybody.
To piggyback off what Lindsay was mentioning there, just any folks that or through your own local connections, we've been trying to blast it out on Facebook, and we put it in the paper, trying to do some of those traditional outreach things, and one applicant. So part of it's letting part of it's an ask to help us out. If you want to apply, that'd be great too. You could do that. It's part-time work.
Right, because the training is, at least one I did it, right? I told you that when the training was like a 40-hour work week. But the actual service of doing the census, I did after work in the evenings or on the weekend. So I could do
she indicated that it's kind of you could kind of set your own hours. The field reps can. So
the training's a 4-day all-day training thing. So you do 4 days of training, and then 10 to 20 hours, mostly evening stuff. I mean, you're enumerating people that didn't self-respond. So it's walk in your neighborhood, and they try to get people in their neighborhoods or in places that they're close by. They don't want to have somebody go 20 minutes away to go some other place.
So these are paid, they're not
They're playing
volunteers.
$16 an hour, I think is what it was starting at, 16 to 17,
Any age limitation?
18 plus.
Okay.
So
So you're
good job for if you've got kids home from college or you know people that are gonna have kids home from college. It's July to mid-August, so it fits perfect in that time frame. Somebody that maybe just graduated high school before they go off, some pocket money. Yeah.
Yeah, and we will have to hire also not just field reps. There will be like a couple supervisors and office clerks that need to be hired as well. So if somebody doesn't want to do the field work, but maybe wants to work in the office, there is that opportunity as well.
And what we met with census on was walking through the current parks office. We've identified that spot as a census office. So that works out well with when Park is vacating that space.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
We'll
Thank
talk
you.
it up.
Appreciate it.
I think she might be on the phone.
Is that the 208-0340? Yep, it must be. Robin?
We can't hear you, Robin.
Can you now?
Getting close.
Real faint.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, I have nothing.
All right.
A voice in the wilderness.
Thank you. Jean Strable. Dropped off.
She's off now.
I hope she's not in the ditch.
She said she's driving now.
Yeah, I hope she's not in the ditch. Holly.
In the monthly reports packet is our year-end recap report. It's not fancy or anything, just a lot of good information, but just if you guys get a chance to read through it, a couple of the things that I would point out that really stick out, that's really significant for a community our size, I think, is, and I only track numbers from the year that the city created the Economic Development Department. So 7 years ago, a couple of just fun numbers. So in 2016, our industrial value was 4.7 million. In 2023, the industrial value is 47.6 million. So an extra almost 43 million. That's a 909% increase in industrial value. So that's a big deal for a community our size. And then on the commercial value side, in 2016, it was 45.1 million. In 2023, it's over 91 million. So that's 102% increase in the commercial value side. So that's very significant, I think, for the size of our community. Over 20 new businesses that opened in this last year, and I kind of list out a bunch of those and the ones that are being developed now. So just a lot of really good information, because I think sometimes it's easy to forget what we've done in the last year or the year before, because it's always this mad rush of what's the next, 25 amazing things coming to Norwalk. So if you get a chance to read through that, it's got some good information in it. Right now, the biggest things that we're kind of focusing on this coming year, we have 2 really hot and heavy data center developers. I mean, so much so that they're flying to Norwalk next week to meet with property owners. So it's not just kind of testing the waters anymore. I know our biggest concern that everybody's asked about is, what about water? That's a huge thing with these data centers. They have become wise to that, of course, because it's the same issue really around the country, and they're running into that. They kind of all gobbled it up over the last 5-10 years when nobody was really paying too close of attention to that. And now they understand they have to re-engineer. So both of these companies have talked about using reclaimed water, doing closed loop, several different things that they're looking at for engineering, because they know that won't be an option. But they're very, very serious about our certified site area. The only thing is, all of them look for hundreds of acres. So they're not just looking for 40 or 80 at a time. They need hundreds. And these facilities end up being, 500,000 to 1 million square feet. Their values come in at 500,000 or $500 million to $1 billion in their taxable value. So they're enormous projects that we really do want to have. The other reason why we want it is because the types of jobs that they bring are very high paying. They're engineering jobs, and they're lower on the number side. We can't have thousands of entry-level jobs because we just have no people for that, and we have low unemployment. So very, very good prospects. We're really hoping that something good can come from it. Of course, it all comes down to the landowners and willingness there, but we're doing everything we can to connect the landowners with these prospects. So fingers crossed, in the next couple of weeks, we'll know a little bit more with those. Those are kind of our big ones right now. And then just a lot of activity, of course, in Norwalk Central and our other development areas with new commercial and retail. So still very busy. Nothing's slowing down.
Great. Thank you. Gene Kelly.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple items. I was going to talk about the assessments a little bit. Obviously, I can't talk to the political angst part of it, and I don't have to do a lot of the legwork. So for what it's worth, I know we talked about this when Tim Hoskins was around, and I don't think he really loved the process, but I will tell you on an annual basis, financially, we get about 75,000 a year, which offsets our debt service levy by about 10 cents. And so from a financial perspective, I think it's well worth it. And if I had to take a look at it and dig into it some more, I would say we probably pay less than 10% of the money that we receive. So just for what it's worth, it is helping us out as far as our tax levy, being able to maintain or keep that down by a certain amount. Next thing, we received the values from the county, and we grew a ton. We grew 388 million overall total assessed value. Keep in mind, this is the first year that cities are realizing the outcome of House File 718. So 388 million total value. We actually are able to tax on 120 million of that value. So about 17%. Take into account the 3% that they limitation that they set in place last year, our revenue growth is 14%. So in essence, we're getting about $800,000 in new money into our general fund. Half of that is coming from Echo Valley TIF. So to kind of give you an idea, if we didn't have that TIF falling off, we would be looking at new money of about $400,000 for all of our general fund needs. Just not a lot of money. The rollback at 46% took a huge chunk. We now have a new commercial rollback caveat or part of this legislation. So instead of 90% rollback on commercial, we're looking at really about 83%. They also, there's some credits for military and 65 and over. Those are about 30,000, not a lot, but just every little bit is kind of just whittling away at that, at our ability to get new money. I did kind of a little calculation. If they would have not put House File 718 into play, I think we'd be looking at about 1.3 million in new money versus 800,000. So it's quite a difference. Again, I think we're really going to feel the pinch more next year because we're going to have to ratchet down the tax levy again, another however many cents it is. And so we're really gonna have to make some decisions, but just wanted to give you that update. And February 1st, we'll have our first budget work session and kind of go through the numbers again. And the departments will be able to present their budgets at that time. That's all I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Major.
Boy, that's tough to follow. Officers wrote last week on the first snow event, the big heavy wet snow, 35 tickets. So people did a pretty good job getting off the streets as a whole. And then this last event we had last Thursday, I was actually helping cover the road midnight to 5. And so I saw firsthand, there was maybe a dozen. So big change. The officers are out hitting it hard, right along with Public Works, and we're making friends. So on next Saturday, January 27th, there's a chili cook-off. Chief Brian Shear from Indianola Police Department contacted Chief Staples and wanted to do something to raise some money for Officer Spur. That's going on at the Indian Oil Middle School from 1 to 4. And the highest, so we're entering a team. Officer Greg Epperly and Officer Jared Slagle are going to put in chili. Jared is there for more support because he can't cook, so he's relying on Heifer. And the team that has the most money at the end wins. They're the champion. So it's a joint thing with the fire departments are participating as well. So we really appreciate the outpouring support that they gave Jason. So if you're free and able, come try some different chili. I have no idea what's going to be there. I do know that our officers there's going to have some brisket in the chili. It is good.
And that's a 27th.
27th, next Saturday, a week from Saturday.
Are they gonna pair that with like some wrestling matches too? Something like that? Cause I'd be down there probably.
Let's see what we could arrange.
Particularly if singlets were involved. All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Fire department's been busy. We've seen an increase of about 30% in the past 7 days, in comparison to the first 10 days of the month. If you may have seen on social media, the news, we did have a structure fire on Sunday on 30th Ave. We had significant challenges with that fire location. The weather primarily was a big factor that did result in a total loss of that home. We had a mutual aid fire also on Tuesday on 50th Ave. That was due to a heating lamp and some animal bedding. They were able to get a significant stop on that with some limited loss. We then had a report of a structure fire that afternoon at McDonald's. That was mitigated prior to our arrival, but that was an exciting situation for the community as well. Please clear your hydrants. It's fire season. So if we can't get to your hydrant, we're going to have challenges. So if you have a hydrant in front of your homes, please make sure to clear that. And lastly, Mike Broderick is a Des Moines firefighter who's been part-time with us for the past 5 years. And he did lose his battle with liver cancer on Sunday. Unfortunately, liver cancer is not one of the 14 cancers recognized under the presumptive disability law, meaning that his family isn't eligible for line of duty death benefits. It's very sad. The fire service as a whole will continue to fight to have all cancers recognized under that law. Thank you.
Wait.
I want to go on record and say this is supposed to be an El Nino year, and you're not supposed to get a lot of snow.
I saw that.
We had received a few correspondence from council members, and I appreciate that. I print those off and I put them on the board. The guys love to hear those kind words, especially when they're working long hours and multiple days. So I thank you for that. Related to plowing snow, there's been some chatter apparently online today. We do try to plow curb to curb. There's just too much snow on the banks right now. We're plowing it, it's going up the bank and coming right back down. To really clear full curb to curb, we would have to drive fast and would take out mailboxes that fill sidewalks and driveways, and that'd be a problem. But apparently the post office is not delivering to some people. If we're like 6 feet off it, we'll try to come back and get more, but most of it is stuff we can't get. Residents they're required, or not required. We're not required to maintain mail delivery. If they're not getting it, they're gonna have to get out and plow around their mailbox to make sure they get their mail. So just to clarify our stance on that. That's all I got.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Carrie.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right. Excuse me, Luke.
So also snow stuff, obviously, we've got snow out there that some people maybe don't want to shovel or clear their walk from. So, but honestly, not a lot of complaints. I think part of it's because a lot of people don't want to be outside in minus 20-degree weather. But we have done some proactive stuff this week on some ones that we know we're going to get a complaint on, ones that we know that are near our schools, especially as we were coming back into school, being in session on Tuesday. Ty helped us get a Facebook post out just to kind of recognize, hey, kids are going back to school. Please, if you've got sidewalk, get it clear. So working through that. We did also get some notification from the folks at the Brownstones about snow removal around their private streets and some frustrations with Hubble with that. We did reconfirm with Hubble that the city had told them it was their responsibility a couple of years ago. And I think they're getting on top of that now, but it continues to be our position that the brownstones are the HOA's responsibility, the drive, including the parking. It's the parking that most people are concerned about. So we've done that. And then saw before you in a report we put together for community development. Just run through, you know, all the different stuff we've had going on this year. Lots of stuff. Some of the stuff echoing what Holly was talking about on the commercial side. You see, you know, some big jumps this year in permits and valuation for commercial things. Total valuation, I think it's interesting that, you know, we did a big spike in the 2015 to 17 and then just kind of had steady growth across all boards. So in some years that we have more residential growth, the commercial's kind of been down, and then vice versa, that commercial offsets low residential. We did see a drop in residential permits this year. Not necessarily unexpected given the tail off of 2022. Really in the projections that we'd worked through, we kind of assumed there was going to be a kind of tail off in the 2020 and 2021 years. In the past, that's what our projections showed, and the world changed and that didn't happen. So I think this is just kind of you know, that got pushed out. Obviously the interest rate stuff's impact that. I would guess that 2024 will probably be around the same kind of steady number before we see a jump again. But again, with the volatility of interest rates and all of that stuff, I think if they turn around and cut a few percentage points off interest rates, that even though it doesn't go back to what it was, I think that it's going to get people more interested in doing development to take advantage of those rates while they're at a certain level. So. And then just, I guess, not always the best about doing this, but just to thank our development staff for all they do. You know, we spend a lot of time going out, looking at all the buildings, making sure everything's safe. And one of the reasons I want to put this together was to highlight all the stuff they do every year. And a lot of times we're just in the background getting stuff done. So I want to make sure those folks are recognized, and we appreciate their accomplishments.
Thank you. Ed?
Good looking report though.
Thank you.
You know, talking about snow removal and driveways, right? So I'm out clearing my driveway and it's pretty cold. And this car comes flying down the street, slams on the binders, and this kid bails out and he's got a camera. He said, "Sir, would you mind if I take your picture?" And I said, "Well, I'll keep shoveling." I said, "Who are you with?" New York Times. So he took a picture of me shoveling my driveway while he interviewed me about the snowstorm and the upcoming caucuses and that sort of thing. Don't know if it was fair or not. I finally got my driveway pristine and I got bare concrete showing it's looking good. And I pull out of my garage and I look to the left and I see the snowplow coming up the street. But you know, he does an excellent job with our street. He really does. And he keeps it nice and clean. And I managed to break through that frozen ice snow and get out on the road. But on a more serious note, we had I attended my first waste management meeting last week, and it was good, and met a lot of the new members that are there, and it's a nice group of people to work with anyway. And so I think we got off to a really good start, and they are looking at the budget. They had a good auditor's report. It was clean. There were just a couple minor comments on there, things they could maybe do better for tracking and monitoring, but it was a good, clean audit report. And the last thing I want to talk about is, I don't know how many of you saw the Attorney General's report today. They did an investigation and he did a report on the school shootings in Texas. You remember, am I saying the name of the town? Audi or Uvalde? Uvalde. Okay. And basically the upshot of it was they were untrained, unequipped, didn't know how to work with each other, had never worked with each other before. Nobody understood incident command. and they didn't implement. And I'm thankful that our emergency responders are trained in incident command. I'm thankful we've been able to equip them. But a concern that's always in the back of my mind is making sure that routinely, at least annually, that our emergency responders get the opportunity to work with the school staff, right? Whether it's on the ground stuff or walk through board stuff, but something to exercise and get the cobwebs out of that and get them so they're rehearsing this together, right? Because that's the one thing we really have going for us is the quality of the staff, the training they've got, and the equipment they've got. But like any good team, you know, they have to practice or they'll never be able to make the play, right? So just a reminder of that and how important that is for the community. Anyway, other than that, that's all I got, Mayor.
Great. Brian.
I will tell Holly that I'm in on the Washington DC trip. I checked that. And I also spent hours and hours and hours going over cart paths and phones, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, I don't know that, you know, we've labored on it forever. I don't think anything is going to get better, but you know, I'm looking forward to the order actually going out because everyone is just word of mouth and they don't even know what the real ordinance is. So hopefully we'll get those letters out soon.
Okay. Sounds good. George.
I'll be attending my first P&Z meeting Monday.
Awesome.
All right. Exciting or not, I'll find out.
All right.
We'll make it exciting.
Good deal.
Just to go along with the golf cart ordinance, I guess Luke's already gone, so I'll let you know that Chief Staples, our city manager, and I met with representatives of Echo Valley this last week, also discussing the golf cart ordinance. And from my point of view, it seems like there's a lot of misunderstanding on what the ordinance actually did, what the reasons for passing the ordinance was, and you know the ultimate effects that's going to have on residents. And so I think we had a really good discussion with Mr. McMurray from Echo Valley, and certainly he gave us his opinion on some things, and and we are going to formulate, as Councilmember Baker indicated, we're going to formulate a letter to send out to the neighbors to try to give them some clarification on what could be done, on what the ordinance does. I personally don't see anything that could be done as far as amendments or anything to really accommodate what, you know, what some of the advocates out there want, which would be just carte blanche, drive your carts as you want, and just prevent those damn kids from driving. But you know, you've got to have ordinances in place, and I think that's what the council recognized. But I think education will go a long ways towards at least having those individuals understand why it was done.
Okay. Couple things. Met Tuesday night with emergency management, passed our budget for the year. We have a $72,000 increase in that. We'll see how the county can actually fund that or not. We are hiring a new emergency management coordinator, Troy Bass, who's been there for quite a long time, is retiring. His official retirement date is July 5th. We hope to have somebody in March, or so that there's some overlap there that the new person can learn whatever, you know, or you know, have some good time to learn Warren County. The other thing is that you may have noticed that there was an item on the agenda for a 2080 agreement with the county in regards to dispatch that was actually pulled. That's because we're going to wait until the county actually passes the 2080 so that we know exactly what's in it before we say that we support it. So, and they have not passed that yet. So that's why that was pulled from the agenda. Other than that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Livingston, seconded by Brown. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, post same.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, Baker.
We're adjourned at 7:30.